Okay, welcome to Live Wire today. We're going to have on Mike Parks from Mike Parks Law. He, on March 23rd, at an emergency session, or I think it was an emergency session, the Tribal Council passed some various legislation and a tribal resolution to obtain legal guidance on tax issues that citizens in the tribe might face as a result of McGirt. One of those tribal resolutions, TR 21-044, authorized the principal chief to sign an agreement to have the Mike Parks law firm consult with them on taxes about tax issues. We have a story on MvskokeMedia.com that has been up since then that has some comments from the MCN Attorney General. But today we had on Mr. Mike Parks, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about what that guidance was and things like that. Mr. Parks, thanks so much for coming on the program today.
You're welcome, Mr. Moore.
I guess my first question would be, you were the principal chief's office was authorized to hire you and work with you on this issue, and the Attorney General's office. What's some of your background for the audience, if maybe they don't know you, that you could give them to say, hey, you know, here's why I would be why I was qualified to do this particular job?
I have been an attorney in southeastern Oklahoma for 41 years, and during that time, I have handled cases all over the state, and I have been an attorney for the Mvskoke Creek Nation for the past 11 years, and I do work for the Legal Services Program, and I represent Creek citizens on probate cases, determination of heirship cases, and guardianship cases. Also in my career, I have handled cases with the Oklahoma Tax Commission concerning payment of state income taxes. I have experience in doing that. I'm not a Creek citizen, but I'm a Cherokee citizen. And I was born and raised in Sapulpa, Oklahoma. I went to college and law school at the University of Oklahoma. And I have been an attorney since 1980. And I worked for the largest law firm in southeastern Oklahoma for 14 years. I was a partner in that law firm, and then I have been a sole practice attorney for the past 27 years. And then in addition to the work on these tax protest cases for Creek citizens, I also am currently handling legal cases for the Realty Department of the Mvskoke Creek Nation and also the Housing Authority for the Mvskoke Creek Nation. I have handled many types of cases in tribal courts for the Choctaw Nation, the Creek Nation, and the Cherokee Nation. So that is a brief synopsis of my background and experience.
I'd also like to mention too, you're pretty familiar with our the Creek Nation's Attorney General right now, Mr. Roger Wiley. You know, will you talk a little bit about your history with him?
Yes, Roger and I, we met when we were 6 years old. We were neighbors in Sapulpa, Oklahoma. We went to school in Sapulpa through the 8th grade. And at that time, his father, Harmon Wiley, who was reared in the Dustin area and who worked for the Bureau of Indian Affairs, he was transferred from the BIA office in Okmulgee to the BIA office in Jay, Oklahoma. At that time, Roger and his family moved to Miami. And so Roger thereafter went to school in Miami. And then he graduated college from the University of Oklahoma about the same time I did. We went to college together. And then he graduated from the University of New Mexico Law School in Albuquerque in 1985. And then after that, he and I worked together in the same law firm for several years, and we've remained friends all these years.
So it sounds like you've got a pretty extensive background in this, tax advice and then just generally Native American legal advice. So Mvskoke Media also obtained a protest letter from the Attorney General's office that they are going to be giving out to citizens. Were you involved in the formulation of that protest letter? Are you familiar with what I'm talking about at all?
Yes, I drafted that with Roger Wiley's assistance.
So I guess my questions too on that front would be, what was the advice there, or what's the recommendation that you could make, if any, to citizens? And I'd also like to mention to anybody watching this, if you have any questions about the tax situation as far as state taxes, etc., that we could try to ask Mr. Parks here, and we'll see if he can provide an answer or not. You know, he's not. I don't know if he wants to give legal advice to people over the internet, but we might be able to ask. You could go into our chat and ask the question, and we'll try to see if we can get any information there. But on the protest letter and just the general idea with citizens, what's the strategy here? What was the advice that you gave to the principal chief's office or the attorney general's office?
Yes, sir. First, a Creek Nation citizen taxpayer needs to meet the deadlines set forth by the Oklahoma Tax Commission in any letters they receive. That's the first thing. You have to respond to any letter you get from the Oklahoma Tax Commission by the deadline set forth in the letter. And let me give you an example of that, Jared.
Okay.
In most of these letters, the Oklahoma Tax Commission will deny the Native American exemption. And they will state in the letter, either they're not going to give you a refund, or if they have given you a refund, they'll demand that you pay the money back. And then in the body of the letter, it will say, if you disagree with this, you need to file a protest within 60 days from the date on this letter.
I see.
It's very important to do that. We have had cases where we mailed the protest letter in several days in advance of the deadline by certified mail. And we check, and for some reason it hadn't been delivered. And so we've resent the letters by Federal Express. We monitor to make sure the letter's timely received within the 60 days. So that's first and foremost.
Sorry. Well, just before we get to the second point, I just had a little question to fit into there. From the looks of this letter and the process you're talking about, would you advise a citizen that's at that stage of the process to have a legal counsel, have a lawyer?
I think it's always best, but the purpose of the letter that I prepared with Mr. Wiley was to give a template that citizens can fill in their information, print it off their computer, send it in by certified mail. We have the correct address on that form letter, so that they can do it themselves if they are unable to hire an attorney.
I see. Okay, so go ahead to your point too. I'm sorry to interrupt you there.
And let me expound on what you just asked me. You don't really have to have an attorney to send in that protest letter. You can follow the form and mail it in yourself.
Okay.
Just be sure and send it certified or overnight delivery, so that you have proof they received it in case they question it. But in that letter, you're also requesting a hearing before an administrative law judge with the Oklahoma Tax Commission, and they will schedule a hearing in Oklahoma City. I do recommend that if you send in the letter yourself and get a hearing date, that well in advance of the hearing date, you hire an attorney to represent you at the administrative law hearing. I think you'll just do better at the hearing if you have an attorney.
So in this process, and we're kind of like dealing in a hypothetical, but in that process, you have the administrative law hearing. Where could it go from there? You know, like what would be the possible final end outcomes for a citizen in this challenging process?
The administrative law hearing is before an administrative law judge that's actually an employee of the state of Oklahoma. normal rules in court don't apply. It's somewhat informal. You appear, you present documents. You can even present documents that you had not previously provided the Oklahoma Tax Commission. You are sworn under oath. You testify either yourself or in response to questions from your attorney. The attorney for the Oklahoma Tax Commission, who will be there representing the commission, has the right to ask you questions. The commission will present any witnesses or evidence they want to. And then at the conclusion of the hearing, which will probably take, I would say, no more than an hour, your case is submitted. After that date, a few weeks after the completion of the hearing, you will receive a written decision by letter in the mail. And there are two possibilities. You can receive a favorable opinion, in which case your exemption will be granted and you'll receive a refund for the state income taxes you paid, or you'll receive a determination that you do not have to pay back any refund that you've received that you protested. The other possibility is you'll lose. The administrative law judge will uphold the denial of your exemption by the Oklahoma Tax Commission. At that point in time, from the date of that letter, and this is another important time deadline, you have 30 days from the date of that letter, on the top of that letter, to file an appeal either in the District Court of Oklahoma County or the Oklahoma Supreme Court in Oklahoma City. We have already decided that if we lose a case, we are not going to file it in the District Court of Oklahoma County. We're just going to take a direct appeal to the Oklahoma Supreme Court. If you file an appeal from an adverse ruling by the administrative law judge, you have to have an attorney. No layperson can successfully file an appeal with the Oklahoma Supreme Court without being represented by counsel. And you have to pay a filing fee, that's the way that works.
I just want to interject really quickly. The we that you're referring to, is that your law firm, or who's the we there?
Just any attorney. I mean, I can do it, but any attorney can do this. And in fact, there's a case that may be ahead of the case. Well, it is ahead of the cases I'm handling. In that case, the Creek citizen is being represented by his CPA in Tulsa. And they're getting ready to have an administrative law hearing in the near future. And that case, it will probably be decided before any of the cases I'm handling. But it's still at the administrative hearing stage. But if they lose, I'm pretty sure their CPA will set his client up with an attorney, because CPAs don't do appeals to the Supreme Court. Right. They can represent people in administrative law hearings before the Oklahoma Tax Commission.
So any of these challenges that citizens may have to their state taxes, that's the ultimate. It could, in theory, go all the way to the United States Supreme Court. Is that, would that be fair to say, if the state decides to challenge it all the way up through the federal court system and then to the United States Supreme Court?
That is possible. Right now, we believe this issue will be decided by the Oklahoma Supreme Court, and my prediction is that it won't go any farther than that. I think whichever way the Oklahoma Supreme Court decides, I think most likely the Oklahoma Tax Commission and any taxpayer will probably abide by that opinion. However, because federal law is involved, if you lose in the Oklahoma Supreme Court, you do have the right to file an appeal with the United States Supreme Court, as you just said.
So, if you're confident that a citizen would abide by the ruling. Would it be safe to infer that what you're saying by saying that is that you believe that the Oklahoma Supreme Court would rule in favor of the citizen, or that what's your take on that, if you can give one?
I am cautiously optimistic.
Okay. Okay.
We feel there were cases decided before McGirt
Mm-hmm.
that support the exemption as long as you meet certain criteria. And we feel like one of those criteria, which is the residency requirement, has actually been broadened by the McGirt opinion. And so we're very hopeful that ultimately we're going to win. But I really think this is going to have to be decided in the Oklahoma Supreme Court, because up to now, the Oklahoma Tax Commission has granted very few exemptions. And they're interpreting the law more strictly than we believe they should. And if a taxpayer meets 3 criteria that have been set by the Oklahoma Tax Commission, they can receive this exemption. But would you like to know what those criteria are?
I would love that, sir.
Number 1, you have to be a citizen of one of the federally recognized tribes, or one of the 5 civilized tribes. Number 1. Number 2, and this is the Oklahoma Tax Commission rule. This isn't my rule. But number 2, you have to be a resident for the entire tax year in question on either allotment land that's a part of your family's original allotment, or you have to be a resident on restricted Indian land, or for the tribe that you're a member of, or you have to be a resident on trust property that is held in trust for you or the Mvskoke Creek Nation by the United States of America. That's number 2. Simply, you have to be a resident on allotment, restricted, or trust. That's number 2. Number 3, you have to be an employee of the tribe that you're a citizen of, or you have to be an employee of a company whose principal place of business is on allotment land, restricted land, or trust property. And so we believe that McGirt especially, and even prior cases, set forth the following 3 requirements in contrast to what the Tax Commission is saying. Number 1, you have to be a citizen. I mean, that's a given.
Sure.
Instead of having to live on allotment land, restricted land, or trust land, we just believe you just have to live within the boundaries of the tribe that you're a citizen of.
Okay.
Anywhere within the historical boundaries of the Creek Nation. We believe that was clarified by McGirt, which held that the reservation was never disestablished and the entire boundaries of the Creek Nation are the reservation.
Okay.
And then number 3, we believe you don't have to prove that you work for the tribe you're a member of, or by a business that has its office on allotted land, restricted land, or trust land. We believe, especially since McGirt, that you just have to work for a company that has its principal place of business within the Creek Reservation, which simply means anywhere within the boundaries of the Creek Nation.
I see.
So we and when I say we, I mean me, but I have consulted with Mr. Wiley and other attorneys who are experts in this area, because we've taken a team approach to this. And but the group that I've consulted with, that's what we believe the law is, and we're going to ask the Oklahoma Supreme Court to make that judicial determination at when we have a case that reaches the court.
I see. So just to clarify for any citizens that are watching, if you live outside of the reservation boundaries, this isn't going to apply to you. Like if you're in California or somewhere, it's not that this instance isn't going to apply to you. If you are employed out and the office of your business is outside of the reservation, this also probably isn't going to apply to you. And would that be fair to say those two criteria are going to eliminate those? So it's basically citizens that live and work within the reservation boundaries.
Yes.
That's who this protest letter is for, that they're going to challenge their state taxes. Is this only applying to like income tax, or is it going to apply to ad valorem? Is there specific tax only that this letter is for, this challenge process, or is it like all of them?
This is for income tax only.
Okay.
And I know citizens who have been challenging ad valorem tax, but I'm not involved in those cases. And,
okay.
You can do that by contacting your county assessor, but right now none of those are being honored, and I'm really not familiar with those cases, Jared.
Okay.
I'm working on the income taxes, and let me say this as a follow-up to the point you made.
Yes.
I think citizens have a good chance of getting the exemption if they fall within those requirements that you've just restated. And if they're an employee of the tribe and if they live on allotted property, restricted property, or trust property, then I feel like the tax commission will go ahead and grant their exemptions.
Right.
So if a citizen falls within one of those categories, if they're an employee of the tribe and if their home is on restricted or trust or allotted property, they definitely need to request the exemption. And then also the second category that you outlined, if they live and work within the historical territory of the Creek Nation, they should also file for the exemption, but they're probably going to get turned down.
And then the challenge process would start.
Yes, sir.
Well, I want to thank you so much, Mr. Parks, for coming in today. I do want to say to the audience, if you are going to go down this process, you can find Mr. Parks has a website, MikeParksLaw.com. You can go there and he might consider taking up your case. I also wanted to mention to the audience, if you like our blanket backdrop that we have here today, there's information in the information box on this video. You can contact Chelsea and the Mvskoke Market. They have a bunch of different designs and they're double-sided. There's a different design on the other side, so check them out. I'm going to start trying to put more stuff from our market in the descriptions of the videos that we do, particularly the live streams. So if you see something you like, go to MvskokeMarket.com. Is there anything you'd like to add, Mr. Parks, while you're here, to citizens or that are watching this and they have questions about their tax, or anything you'd like to say as far as this process, or give anybody any shout outs or anything like that?
No, I believe that you and I have fairly covered the main points. And yes, I would be happy to answer any questions that any citizens have in the future. And that's what I'm here for, to help citizens of the Mvskoke Creek Nation. And Mr. Moore, I would like to give a shout out on that blanket behind you. That is awesome.
Yeah.
That is an awesome design. And I'm going to go to that link or website you just told your audience about, and I'm going to check into purchasing one of those. That's awesome.
One of the things that's happened while we're talking about it is Mvskoke. The people might not know about Mvskoke Media is we also operate some gift shops here on the complex, and we sell a bunch of different products like pins with the seal on them, and t-shirts and blankets and stuff. It kind of doesn't come over we don't cover it a lot in the news, but it's there. And I believe it's Mvskoke Media or MvskokeMarket.com, I think is the address for the website. We'll have a link in the description for it. So go check it out. And again, Mr. Parks, thanks so much. I look forward to talking to you in the future. And we're going to sign out for today. Mado.
Thank you.